Welcome to this piano tutorial for the song Great Are You Lord by All Sons and Daughters, from their based on the recording from their self-titled album. This sheet music is available at centeredworship.com if you don't already have a copy of it and would like one. I'm going to go through in this tutorial each section one at a time. I'm going to give some insight into the mind, sometimes the crazy mind of the arranger, give you some tips for practicing some of the more difficult sections, as well as some creative ideas for altering the arrangement if you wanted to do that. Looking at the first part, the intro, first thing you'll notice when you play it is that it's not identical to the recording, but is very similar. The part that is identical is the right hand. The left hand in the recording just holds that, but I chose to put in an eighth note figure, and I did that to provide some filler, some sonic filler, and more importantly, it's a practical reason to establish the tempo right at the beginning of the song. I've played enough for congregations to know that any help they can be given to know when to come in, how fast to sing, what note they're supposed to start on, things like that. It's only going to benefit them. So if in your context you don't need to do that, if having that much space works, then do that. You don't have to play it exactly as I wrote it. As you're going to find, I've got quite a few creative ideas for this arrangement, ways you can alter it, and I really do feel like maybe I move off the beaten path here, but I view my arrangements as suggestions, templates that you can follow, but maybe just a starting point, and I'm totally okay as an arranger with you taking my ideas and running with them yourself, altering them a little bit, omitting some things, adding some things, whatever works for your context, whatever works for your ear, maybe whatever works for your hands. I've got large hands, so the way I voice chords tends to be rather larger, and maybe you want to shrink them down because you've got smaller hands, whatever. I view creativity as a communal thing and not something that is set in stone once and can't ever change. When you get to, and by the way, what I was doing instead of the eighth notes in the left hand, basically just playing the root note. If I have room and it won't run into my right hand, I'll also add the fifth above it. That gives a nice voicing. Basically, it's almost the same thing as what I do here in the verse. Which creative idea, you can do this, you can continue this eighth note pattern in the left hand through the verse if you wanted to keep that kind of tumbling along kind of feel going. It gets pretty self-explanatory here. The only tricky part is this last measure on this page. Your left hand has to do a crossover. Up until then, it just kind of stays in the same spot. I guess it does, depending on how you finger that. There's a crossover there. That might be tricky for you, might not. I just cross my pointer finger over like that. Your right hand's going to do something similar, where it has to change position. If that's a trouble spot, just take a time out, write some finger numbers in there so you know where to put your fingers. It really is worth the time to do that, believe me. The only thing I wanted to draw on this first chorus is a little insight into the mind of the arranger. I hear the bottom note in the right hand as a walking down melody, very intentionally written that way, because I think it's beautiful. Oops. And then it goes up to G sharp. I butchered that, so you probably didn't hear it. Bum, dum, 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 dum. So let that... one of the things that I think differentiates a good arrangement of contemporary music from a bad one is little things like this, little melodies. To me, a boring accompaniment arrangement is just covering the chords. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It provides the tempo, it provides the harmony that you need to sing the song. But a really special arrangement is one that adds in little melodies. Sometimes they're not caught right away. Sometimes they're only implicitly heard. Sometimes they match closely what the melody does. Sometimes they're totally different. But I try to give you, the pianist, something interesting, something that you can hold on to, something that you can offer to the song time, something that is pleasant to your ear, and something that motivates you to make it musical. Because there's nothing more frustrating or more demoralizing than just plunking chords. If you're given a melody to play, that's only going to incentivize you to play it as if you were singing it, which is why I have that in there, because I want you, the pianist, to think of it as a melody that you're offering to the song. So let it sing. Don't play it like a robot. Let it sing, let it breathe, let it complement well the melody. And if there's a soloist singing at this point, then you've really got a neat opportunity to dance with the vocalist and let it complement each other really well. Okay, jumping ahead, when we get to the instrumental section going into the bridge, this is something that could potentially, I'll say it this way, it's scarier than it looks scarier than it is. It's really not difficult. Seeing it on paper makes it much more easier to understand. When you listen to the recording, when I first heard it, I thought they actually changed meters, and I tried to decipher that with the metronome, and it just did not work. All that they did is they started playing a dotted eighth note feel in 6/8, which is a perfect 4 beats within a 6-beat measure. So it feels like they switched to 4/4, although they've never left 6/8. And it works really well. It totally changes the feel, but you never left home either. So I've written in the larger regular sized note heads basically what is being played on the recording. Like that. But I've offered these eighth notes in a smaller size. And I put a little note here, eighth note optional, if it's really helpful for you to have that 6/8 feel against the 4 feel. And let's be honest, it's not cheating to do that. It doesn't mean that you're a lesser of a musician to do that. For me, if I'm not playing with a metronome, when I go from the regular normal 6/8 into this 4 against 6 idea without the 6 being played, it's really hard for me to keep the tempo the same. I want to slow down. I want to go from and then, which if you keep it at that tempo and you go into the bridge, it's just going to drag. So for me, it helps to be counting 10, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this left hand keeps that same tempo going that was going before. Honestly, that's how I originally wrote this. And then I thought, well, I'll just add it as a suggestion, not as a requirement, in case you want more of the open sound. When you get to the bridge itself, when you start singing, a little note don't dive into it with octaves. I think you'll build it up too soon. Start with one note and then add the octaves when you're really trying to build it. It's my only suggestion there. When you get to the last chorus, it really opens up. Too bad. If you're using a lot of pedal and you're playing this not like a robot, you're trying to be musical, it can really sound really nice and be a really high energy support for the melody. According to my philosophy that I stated before, there is a melody, and even though it sounds like a big plunk plunk section, there is a little melody that I've offered that follows the descant that the vocalist sings in the repeat of that last chorus. Now, here's some ideas. I do have a bunch of ideas if you want to alter this chorus. You can simply, if you want to make it easier, you can just take out the notes in the second half of the measure in the left hand and just play the downbeats, and it would still work great. You can take out the bottom note in the right hand and just play the top two notes, and it would still sound great. You can, and I thought about this, so there's 3 notes being played at a time. In this first measure, you've got an A, E, A, A, E, A. Instead of playing them as block chords, split them up into triplets. Like that. Your breath in our lungs. Like that. It's an idea. This is, it's really something that you as a musician, not just a pianist, but as a musician, get to sit down and be creative, make a decision on what works best in the context. Listen to the room, listen to the singers. If you're playing in a worship band, listen to what the guitarists and the other instrumentalists are doing, and make a decision on what is going to sound best and what is going to serve everybody in the room best. It may be you play exactly as written. Maybe you alter it slightly. Maybe you alter it a lot. Hopefully, what I've given here is a good start to a conversation that you can have as a musician with the arrangement here. All right, I hope that's helpful. You can get this sheet music if you don't already have it, again, at centeredworship.com. Thanks for watching.